What if the America Europeans were warned about was never the America waiting beyond the headlines? During the 2026 World Cup, one turn into an ordinary neighborhood exposed something television rarely showed them: peaceful streets, open lawns, welcoming porches, and a kind of everyday freedom that felt almost unreal. How many opinions about America were built from a distance, and how many disappeared the moment visitors finally saw the country with their own eyes? Suburbia stole the show. The biggest surprise of the 2026 World Cup may not have happened inside a stadium at all. It may have happened 10 miles away on a quiet American street where the lawns looked freshly combed, the houses stood apart like they had finally escaped a crowded group photo, and every driveway seemed wide enough to host a family reunion without blocking the mail truck.
I'm currently walking these dogs right now, and look how American this neighborhood looks.
European coverage often presents the United States through its loudest moments: crime reports, political arguments, traffic jams, and cities filmed from the least flattering angle available. After enough of that, it becomes easy to imagine America as one endless emergency siren with a fast food restaurant attached. Then visitors arrive for the World Cup, leave the downtown hotel district, and discover neighborhoods that feel peaceful, spacious, clean, and almost ridiculously comfortable. That contrast matters because residential life in Europe usually follows a different rhythm. In London, many families live in narrow terraced houses where the garden is modest and the walls are shared. In Paris, apartment living is common, especially in older central districts where space is carefully measured and every extra square meter carries serious value. Amsterdam's beautiful row houses are famous for their narrow frontage, while Barcelona's example packs daily life into dense apartment blocks arranged around inner courtyards. These places have history, character, and walkability that American suburbs do not always match. Yet American neighborhoods offer something many visitors rarely expect at this scale: personal space built directly into ordinary life. A detached home can have a front lawn, a garage, a backyard, mature trees, and enough room between neighbors that a dropped frying pan does not become community news. The street may be broad enough for 2 SUVs, a delivery van, and 1 confused rental car to pass without anyone folding a mirror or whispering a prayer. Even the mailbox has its own patch of land, standing proudly by the curb like a tiny federal employee with excellent job security. What makes this appealing is not extravagance. It is how normal everything feels. A family can barbecue behind the house, children can ride bicycles along the sidewalk, and neighbors can wave without becoming involved in each other's entire afternoon. Privacy and friendliness somehow share the same block, which may be one of the most underrated American inventions after air conditioning and the cup holder. That is where the media image begins to fall apart. The America some Europeans expected was tense, chaotic, and exhausting. The America they encountered around the World Cup included shady trees, quiet evenings, clean sidewalks, flags by the porch, and neighborhoods where daily life seemed less like survival and more like having room to breathe. After living around that comfort for several weeks, returning home could feel strangely difficult. The attachment is understandable because America does not need to perform here. It simply opens the garage, lights the grill, and lets an ordinary neighborhood make the argument. The neighborhood has perks. Some American streets come with a pool key, a walking trail, a playground, and a clubhouse calendar that looks busier than a small-town mayor. At first, that sounds like a real estate brochure trying too hard. Then people spend a few days inside one of these communities and realize the appeal is much more practical. The neighborhood itself has been designed to remove friction from ordinary life. A 2023 estimate from the Community Associations Institute counted more than 365,000 community associations across the United States, housing about 75 million residents. That does not mean every American subdivision comes with palm trees and a tennis court, but it does show how common shared residential amenities have become. In many places, the pool is not across town, the playground is not hidden behind 3 bus transfers, and the walking path does not require a weekend plan. They are simply part of the address. Even an ordinary weekday starts to feel slightly upgraded, as though the suburbs slipped a hotel wristband onto family life and decided nobody should need a reservation to enjoy the afternoon right at home. That arrangement feels striking when compared with cities such as Paris, London, or Barcelona. Those places offer excellent public parks, municipal pools, cafes, plazas, and transit, often with far greater walkability than American suburbs. Yet shared recreation usually belongs to the city rather than the immediate residential block. A London family may visit a local leisure center, while a Parisian household might use a public garden several streets away. In many American communities, recreation follows residents home and waits near the mailbox. The clever part is not the swimming pool itself, it is the way convenience turns occasional activities into habits. A 10-minute drive to exercise can become tomorrow's problem. A trail behind the house becomes tonight's walk. A distant playground requires planning. One around the corner creates spontaneous friendships, scraped knees, and parents comparing lawn advice as though they are negotiating at the United Nations. This is where the neighborhood becomes strangely addictive. People begin by using the amenities, then slowly inherit a routine. Tuesday means an evening walk. Saturday means the pool. Summer brings cookouts, pickup games, and children racing bicycles until porch lights flicker on. The community is doing something subtle but powerful. It makes belonging easier. Of course, these neighborhoods can involve association fees and rules, and nobody has ever described an argument over approved fence colors as a national treasure. Still, the trade-off helps explain why many residents value the system. The fee is not merely buying trimmed landscaping. It is supporting a shared setting where daily life feels organized, social, and pleasantly close at hand. That may be what stays with European visitors after the World Cup crowds disappear. America's residential charm is not only found inside large homes. Sometimes it is outside, where a pool key feels more valuable than a Costco membership card, and the neighborhood quietly behaves like a resort that remembers everyone's name. The Yellow Miracle. At 7 in the morning, an American neighborhood can perform a small piece of choreography that looks almost too polished to be ordinary. Porch lights are still fading, coffee is still negotiating with sleepy parents, and then a yellow school bus rolls around the corner as if the entire street has been waiting for its cue.
Okay, so I'm in America, yeah? Guys, the yellow school buses are real.
This is more than transportation. It is a national ritual built directly into residential life. The American School Bus Council has estimated that roughly 480,000 school buses carry about 26 million students each school day. Put another way, the United States moves a population larger than many European countries every morning, then brings it home again before dinner. That scale changes how a neighborhood feels. Children do not simply leave for school, the street briefly becomes part of the school system. A driveway turns into a meeting point, a curb becomes a timetable, and neighbors who might otherwise exchange one polite wave suddenly know whose child forgot a backpack and whose father is still wearing slippers. It is community life disguised as logistics. The comparison with Europe is fascinating because the daily routine is often organized differently. In Amsterdam and Utrecht, many children cycle to school through networks designed around bicycles. In London, families may depend on walking, local buses, or the underground. In Paris, dense neighborhoods and public transport place schools within a very different urban rhythm. Those systems can be efficient and admirably independent, but the American yellow bus creates something unusually visible. The country brings the service to the child's own street. That convenience becomes quietly addictive. Parents are spared 2 extra car trips during the most chaotic parts of the day. Children gain a first taste of independence without crossing an entire city alone. The same bus appears at nearly the same time, driven by someone who often recognizes the families along the route. In a world where every app demands a password, a verification code, and possibly your mother's maiden name, the yellow bus still operates on the radical idea that standing by the curb should be enough. Its design also carries a reassuring seriousness. Federal safety standards give school buses high visibility, reinforced construction, flashing signals, and distinctive stop arms. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, students are far safer traveling by school bus than by passenger vehicle. The cheerful color may look playful, but underneath it sits one of America's most carefully engineered pieces of everyday infrastructure. For European visitors staying in American neighborhoods during the World Cup, this ritual can reveal something headlines rarely capture. The country is not merely large, it has learned how to organize that largeness around family life. A calm street, a familiar driver, and one bright yellow bus can make a sprawling suburb feel connected. Sometimes the most lovable side of America arrives before breakfast, opens its folding door, and somehow gets millions of children to class without asking the entire neighborhood to panic, even once before morning coffee. The porch runs everything. One afternoon in an American neighborhood can quietly rearrange a visitor's idea of convenience. A delivery van stops, a driver walks 10 steps, a box appears beside the front door, and the entire transaction ends before anyone has located a coat, found the elevator, or argued with an intercom that sounds like it was installed during the Cold War. This is where the American house becomes more than a place to live. It becomes a fully functioning destination. The U.S. Postal Service serves more than 165 million delivery points nationwide, which means an enormous country has built a system around reaching individual homes day after day. Add private carriers and grocery services, and the front porch begins to behave like a tiny neighborhood loading dock with a welcome mat. According to the U.S. Postal Service's 2023 annual report, that network stretches across cities, suburbs, rural roads, and remote communities with remarkable consistency. That sounds ordinary to Americans because it is ordinary. For many European visitors, however, the smoothness can feel almost luxurious. In central Paris, Rome, or Barcelona, apartment deliveries may involve coded entrances, narrow staircases, shared lobbies, limited parking, and the ancient urban sport of arriving exactly when nobody is home. Germany and France have excellent parcel lockers and pickup networks, but those systems often ask the customer to meet the package halfway. In suburban America, the package comes all the way to the door and waits with the confidence of a golden retriever. The real attraction is not online shopping itself, it is the way the neighborhood removes tiny interruptions from the day. Groceries can arrive while dinner is being prepared. A replacement phone charger can appear without a trip across town. During the World Cup, visitors can order sunscreen, a team shirt, or enough snacks for overtime without turning the afternoon into a transportation project. Convenience stops feeling like a special service and starts behaving like part of the plumbing. That changes people faster than they expect. After several weeks, walking to a pickup point feels strangely ceremonial. Carrying heavy bags up 3 flights of stairs begins to resemble unpaid CrossFit. America has a habit of taking a small inconvenience, giving it wheels, a tracking number, and a cheerful notification that says, "Your order is 8 stops away." Of course, porch delivery is not flawless. Missed packages, weather, and theft remain real concerns, while dense European cities often make local shopping easier on foot. Yet the American model reveals something deeply appealing about residential culture. The home is treated as the center of daily life, and services are designed to reach it. That is why the porch becomes so memorable. Even the doorbell seems promoted from decoration to a hardworking daily member of the household. It does not shout, sparkle, or ask for attention. It simply keeps receiving groceries, medicine, birthday gifts, and last-minute fan gear while everyone else gets on with the day. After that kind of ease, returning home may feel less like leaving America and more like losing a very efficient personal assistant who happened to wear shorts and drive a brown truck. Streets start cooking. At noon, an American residential street can lose its traffic and gain a kitchen. Folding tables appear beside parked cars, grills begin sending smoke over the mailboxes, children cover the asphalt with chalk, and somebody's aunt arrives carrying enough potato salad to feed a minor league baseball team. Nothing about this looks official, yet the entire block suddenly behaves as though it has been rehearsing for weeks. This is the American block party, and its charm comes from a contradiction that visitors often notice only after living here for a while. American homes prize privacy, but American neighborhoods repeatedly create reasons to step outside it. The garage door opens, the lawn chairs migrate toward the curb, and the street stops being a route between houses and becomes the shared room those houses do not normally possess. The scale reaches far beyond a handful of festive suburbs. According to National Night Out, one of the country's best-known community programs, its annual events have involved roughly 38 million neighbors across about 17,000 communities. The program emphasizes local connection and public safety, but those numbers reveal a broader American habit. People are remarkably comfortable turning ordinary residential space into a temporary civic stage. Across Europe, neighborhood gatherings also come with strong local traditions. Britain holds street parties for royal occasions and national celebrations. France promotes the Fête des Voisins, while Spanish and Italian cities often rely on plazas, cafes, and evening promenades for daily social life. Those customs are older and more naturally woven into dense urban streets. The American version feels different because it takes a place designed for cars and, for one afternoon, hands it back to people. That simple transformation can change the social temperature of an entire block. A neighbor previously known only as the man with the blue pickup becomes the person who makes excellent ribs. Children meet without parents arranging a formal playdate 3 weeks in advance. New families learn names, local stories, and the unofficial rules about which trash bin keeps wandering downhill during storms. Community often begins with hamburgers before quietly turning into genuine trust. For World Cup visitors staying in American neighborhoods, this can be more convincing than any patriotic speech. Television coverage may present the United States as permanently divided, yet a block party shows disagreement and affection sitting comfortably at the same folding table. People can support different teams, argue over barbecue sauce, and still save each other a seat beneath the canopy when the afternoon sun starts acting like it pays rent. The addictive part is not merely the food, although America rarely loses an argument when a grill is involved. It is the feeling that a vast country can suddenly become small enough for everyone to recognize one another. After several weeks, the casual greetings, shared plates, and spontaneous invitations begin to feel less like hospitality and more like belonging. By sunset, the tables disappear, the road reopens, and the neighborhood returns to normal, except it no longer feels anonymous. For anyone expecting American suburbia to be distant or isolated, this ordinary ritual can become one of the warmest memories carried home. That is a distinctly American kind of magic, closing one street for a few hours and opening an entire community. Books without locks. A small wooden box stands beside an American sidewalk filled with books and protected by nothing more advanced than a glass door and the basic hope that strangers will behave themselves. To anyone expecting suburban America to be suspicious, locked down, and permanently nervous, that little box can be more surprising than a stadium packed for the World Cup. This is the little free library idea, and its power comes from how little it demands. Nobody scans an identity card, downloads an app, or waits for an employee to approve the transaction. A person opens the door, takes a book, leaves another when possible, and continues walking. The entire system runs on trust, which is remarkable because the nightly news rarely gives trust much airtime. Little Free Library began in Wisconsin in 2009, and by 2023 the organization reported more than 175,000 registered book-sharing boxes around the world. Many sit in American front yards, near sidewalks where children, retirees, dog walkers, and delivery drivers pass every day. That scale matters because it turns a charming decoration into something closer to neighborhood infrastructure. Except the infrastructure might contain a mystery novel, a cookbook from 1987, and 3 copies of the same presidential biography. Europe certainly has its own book-sharing traditions. Germany is known for public bookcases called Bücherschränke, while British villages sometimes convert old red telephone boxes into community libraries. Those ideas are wonderful, yet the American version carries a distinctly residential personality because private homeowners place the library directly on their own property and quietly invite the whole neighborhood to use it. The front lawn stops being purely private space and becomes a tiny public square with shelves. That is where the habit becomes unexpectedly addictive. People begin by checking for one title, then start noticing what their neighbors read, what children borrow, and which books disappear fastest. A box beside the curb creates conversations that would never begin through a closed garage door. Someone recommends a thriller, another leaves gardening guides, and a child discovers that books can arrive without homework attached. During the 2026 World Cup summer, visitors staying in American neighborhoods could easily miss this detail because it makes no noise and asks for no applause. Yet it reveals a side of the country that dramatic coverage often overlooks. America is frequently shown as divided and distrustful, while thousands of families are placing unlocked books beside the sidewalk and assuming the community will take care of them. That assumption feels generous, practical, and deeply American. It says knowledge should travel, neighbors can be trusted, and a front yard can offer more than perfect grass. After several weeks, the little box begins to feel like part library, part handshake, and part proof that community does not always require a committee meeting. It is difficult to fear a neighborhood that leaves stories outside overnight and expects tomorrow's readers to find them waiting. Some neighborhoods impress visitors with size, while this one wins them over with faith in ordinary people. The lawn goes retail. An American front lawn can wake up on Saturday morning and decide it has entered retail. A folding table appears beside the driveway, handwritten price stickers cling to lamps and coffee makers, and somebody negotiates over a waffle iron with a seriousness normally reserved for a used pickup truck. By breakfast, the neighborhood has become a marketplace where almost everything has a story, and nearly everything costs less than lunch. The yard sale looks casual, but culturally it reveals something unusually American. Homes here often hold decades of family life inside garages, attics, basements, and spare rooms, so selling unused belongings becomes a public ritual rather than a private disposal problem. A child's bicycle, an old toolbox, Christmas decorations, and a stack of vinyl records return to circulation without passing through a corporation, a warehouse, or an app demanding 12 photographs. The scale can become wonderfully excessive because America rarely leaves a simple idea at neighborhood size. The 127-yard sale, which its organizers call the world's longest yard sale, follows nearly 700 miles through 6 states from Michigan to Alabama. That is less a shopping trip than a treasure hunt with state lines, gas station coffee, and enough mismatched furniture to redecorate several sitcom families. Europe has rich secondhand traditions, although the setting often feels more organized and public. Britain has car boot sales, France has vide grenier, and Germany has Flohmärkte that fill town squares or designated market grounds. Those events gather sellers in one place, while the American yard sale brings buyers directly into residential streets. The difference becomes obvious when the merchandise arrives with the house, the neighborhood, and sometimes the owner's full explanation of why Aunt Linda bought that ceramic rooster in 1994. That personal layer creates the addiction. Buyers are not merely searching for cheap objects, They are chasing the strange victory of finding value where nobody else noticed it. A $5 chair becomes a restoration project, while a box of old baseball cards can produce the suspense of opening a playoff game in the 9th inning. Even the items nobody buys contribute to the fun, especially when a porcelain clown keeps watching from the same table until sunset. The custom also makes American neighborhoods feel unexpectedly open. Driveways that usually mark private territory become temporary invitations, and strangers can browse, joke, bargain, and exchange local information without arranging a formal event. New residents learn who repairs furniture, who collects records, and which neighbor will reduce every price after 2 o'clock because the garage must be empty before dinner. For World Cup visitors staying in American suburbs, this becomes another correction to the picture shown overseas. The United States is often portrayed as relentlessly commercial, yet here is a market built on reuse, conversation, trust, and a handwritten sign taped to a mailbox. Nobody needs polished branding when a marker pen, a folding table, and a hopeful 8-year-old can run the sales department. By late afternoon, the lawn returns to normal, but the best objects have found new homes. That cycle feels generous, practical, slightly chaotic, and unmistakably American, which explains why one innocent Saturday can turn visitors into people who suddenly break for every cardboard sign reading, "Yard sale ahead." Perhaps the real surprise was never the size of American homes, but the life built around them. Trust on the sidewalk, stories in the yard, neighbors turning ordinary streets into places people remember. The World Cup may have brought Europeans to America, yet these small daily rituals gave them reasons to stay longer. Which neighborhood tradition would you bring home with you? Share your answer below, subscribe to the channel, and join us as we discover more of America.